Hey everybody, got another Halloween comic book review to review for you guys. And yeah, this excuse me. This came out earlier uh, this year. Darkhold. Uh, was this written by Steve Orlando, art by Cian Torme. Uh, this is kind of like I want to say snuck up on me, but something I like just stumbled by while I was going through you know comics through one particular Wednesday, and this is kind of an event. I'm not sure how you classify it because it's not like the way like Hawks and Pox was or DC's Metal was. This is kind of like a kind of like the my recent review of DC's Forever Evil, where it was an event, but it didn't stretch out longer than like 6 or 7 issues. It was pretty much short and sweet and to the point. It only affected like aside from maybe a few times, it didn't affect more beyond than the central characters that's brought in from the jump. This is kind of like a very Scarlet Witch centered story with other heroes as like not cameos but supporting roles. And if you're familiar with like Agents of Shield, Doctor Strange, or even both Doctor Strange films, uh, and in WandaVision, you're familiar with the book called The Darkhold. It's a very evil book that typically reading from it, and it brings out like very bad magics, and it was created in Marvel Comics. I'm pretty sure in the movies will handle this as well. It was created by this demonic, otherworldly, not a typical demon, but just like a otherworldly monster of a very high caliber called Chthon, who the book's bindings cover, or at least like the hardback, is made from the skin of his own brother, and it's you know uh, it's supposed to be like a access or a nexus point, or at least something that anchors him, or at least a bridge to get Chthon into the earthly plane to conquer. And his dimension, from what you'll get from here, is as chaotic, as wild, is just utter chaos and just madness all around. So it begins with like Victorious, who's the right hand woman of Doctor Doom, unearthing uh, the true Darkhold book. Now this also prompts the awakening of Chthon, which because of this, he just out of sheer taunting reached out into Wanda's dreams, showing her like a premonition of what's to come on the earthly plane. All the heroes and everybody just pretty much dying from all these different monsters, and him just coming forth and just wreaking havoc on the planet. Uh, so she shows up where Victorious is, underneath the uh, you know underground. Like, where is this? Well, specifically underground. It wasn't really. It just says beneath the United States, but it's called like Bismia. Sorry, it was like a fly or something. Abysmia. And one of the Doom bosses is trying to read the book and Doom is reading it through the Doombot's eyes. Because if you personally read through this book, it will possibly drive you mad. And the longer you read it, the more wicked you was supposed to become. Scarlet Witch shows up to stop Victoria's mess around with that book, which prompts Doom to show up, teleports in. You know, she tells him about what's to come, like what he unearthed. Because Doom is Doom. He's trying to gain more power because he believes he should rule. I mean, honestly, out of any, because there's been other comics, one in particular where Doom had uh rule the world. He's like God Doom, and honestly did successfully. He wasn't like a tyrant per se. Uh, uh he want to make sure like everybody lives peacefully, but under his guise, and it's like more truer than anything else from a villain like Kingpin or even Lex Luthor. Uh, so she chastised him about his I want to say ignorance, but like his ego that driven him to just like do something like this, even though it's meant to be buried, not touched. But Doom believes he knows better, so he agrees. Like, yeah, we'll stop him because just like Wanda, this guy in this monster taunts Doom as well. So Doom and Wanda realize, through the historical records that the way Chthon was sealed in the first place was these uh, 5 ancient warriors who read only a little bit of the book, just enough to what Wanda says temper themselves with a bit of madness. Because to go into the plane of Chthon's realm, it's so chaotic. It's like no sane person can handle it. You get torn to shreds, all horrific things. You cannot go there without being a little crazy yourself. Uh, that's how these ancient beings drove back Chthon in the first place. But in the end, it was like a sacrifice, like a suicide mission, where they know they couldn't like they I don't know if they killed themselves or they sealed themselves in stone or something like that. It's their lungs is gone. That's all you got to worry about. But Doom feels like well, lots has changed over time. We wouldn't, unlike them who needed like a team in order to take down Chthon. Doom can handle this on his own. I have magic and science, and mastering them both, I can deal with this creature. So, of course, Doom uh, uh, uses his magic to port towards the realm of Chthon to, do battle with him and conquer him. But then Wanda decides, like, no, we need, because the former Guardians that dealt with Chthon in the first place were known as uh, the Dark Defenders, but they had like a specific title called the Dreamer, the Hunter, the Artist, the Stoic, and the Fool. So by today's, I'm not sure like how Wanda specifically chose these particular ones. I mean, I understand, but they're not the only ones that have that kind of qualifications. But they, Wanda chose uh, Iron Man, the Dreamer, uh, uh, Blade, the Hunter, Wasp, Janet Van Dyne as the artist, Black Bolt the Stoic, and obviously Spider-Man as the Fool. So she explains to them what they have to do in order to prevent Chthon for reaching into our plane of existence. Of course, Black Bolt is like all hesitant about it, given the fact my primary concern is my inhuman people. Uh, but he quickly changed his mind as soon as they saw Doom pour back in, and he is wrecked of beyond shit. He just barely made it out alive. Like the lower jaw of his face mask is ripped off. He's bleeding, and of course he wouldn't admit that he was in over his head because of course it's Doom. And you see like I couldn't get much pictures online for the slides, so I got what I can. But Doom, was seen like fighting all these hordes of monsters, and it just there's so many of them. It's pretty much like an entire world that he had to fight back, which is like too overwhelming even for Doom. As powerful he is, it's still too much. And they send a clawing at him and try to drag him down. And he just had to port back just before he ended up getting himself killed. So of course he quickly ports back home, refusing to admit that he was in over his head. And of course he later comes back after he got chains of armor and like healed up a bit. So Blade, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Wasp, and Black Bolt each read just a little bit. It's never specified how much they read from the book, but this, sparked like I guess they saw like a snippet of a dark alternate world, kind of like a different, like a kind of like DC has like a dark multiverse. This here seems like like Marvel's equivalent to that, where they peered into like a dark choices, or at least a choice they made in like an alternate world where they, it's kind of like they read like the only a single comic issue of a dark reality with themselves, and it's still like you later find out it's like still later too much. It was like you wasn't specify how little we have to read. What that part was a little confusing, or at least not confusing, but kind of like something that should have been like specified by Scarlet Witch. It's like, okay, should we read a paragraph, one single page, one sentence? How much is a little do we have to read just to temper our madness? Because that's just kind of like that wasn't helpful information. You just tell us to read only a little bit, and it's like how much is a little. So they read, which further, opens the doorway for Chthon to start like peeking his way through. Then all the readers starting to like morph into their dark selves that they read from, or at least not where they read from, but it's kind of like, well, it changed them into like let's say like a dark versions of themselves, like a twisted version of themselves, and it's really gnarly. A lot of them are really gnarly, and they're known for themselves as like the Darkhold defiled, and Wanda's plan is utilizing these versions of them because just like the old Darkhold defenders, uh, they need like kind of like evil fighting evil kind of situation. That they need like Carnage level of a you know of a dark uh, identity of themselves to go in there and fight off the throne to weaken him enough for Scarlet Witch to put an end to him and for all. Uh, because they have to fight in his world, which in their normal state they wouldn't stand a chance, as Doom kind of perfectly illustrated. And you get these little single issue tie-ins of what they read from, and it is like it's awesome to be honest with you. And it kind of reminds me of DC's Metal, the first DC's Metal, centered around Batman, of course, where it's like these dark versions of Batman if he made different decisions, or at least if he had like certain whatever dark thoughts he had for a moment, that alternate dark personality is what he took. Because it's like there's a multiverse and then there's like a dark multiverse underneath that. And I kind of wish that Marvel leaned into this because this is pretty good, and like, or maybe like a dark multiverse, but kind of like Earth 3 Justice League had like a Earth 3 Crime Syndicate. As I mentioned last week in my review for Forever Evil, Marvel should have an equivalent to that, just like DC was like the DC Comics alternate universe that's kind of the same vein as Marvel Zombies. Marvel should have their, crime syndicate version. And I think this could easily fall in line with that. If not that, at least like a darker multiverse, but something to that vein. It was like, okay, let's, make a Darkhold universe where all these evil versions of the Marvel characters, where it's kind of like flip flop, those we know to be good, they're evil, and those that we know to be evil are the good guys there, and evil still wins, and that kind of stuff. I think that's that could easily work. I kind of wish they kind of leaned into that because it's pretty damn good. Kind of like the Infinity Warps universe is a whole thing with like Gamora using the Infinity Stones to fold the Marvel universe in of itself and merging characters with the other characters. So Iron Man's what he read was like a universe where a world where after he I guess got back from the situation with the terrorists utilizing his Mark 1 armor, and uh, is Pepper Potts narrating here, and uh, saying that this armor saved his life. He's trying to make it better, like utilizing, because it saved his life. He figured, okay, I can use this kind of same mechanism to save other people's lives. Like pretty much like walking iron lungs or respirators or things like that that can heal the body on the go. Trying to like good intentions, whatever. But it turns into a freaking horror show because as they try to take one piece, the Pepper and Happy is trying to take one piece of the like his left hand, trying to take the armor piece off his left hand. It takes all the skin and some of the muscle along with it, because it's supposed to be healing him, you know, while after he got back, but he had to put it right back on because he miscalculated on certain calculations. So now, upon like further tinkering with it, it's just things get a lot worse. Now it's like, as he put it, how like you just not notice when you like you got an itch and just naturally scratch it. That's how it was when he keeps putting back on the suit, and it further deteriorates his body to the point where it's like, it's like uh, it's showing in white, but it's supposed to indicate his skin melting through the Mark One armor, and he just started to upon scanning, Pepper scans his scanning or X-raying his body. She knows that at this point, it uh his skull is kind of like deteriorating, and it's like his body's starting to just become just malformed meat at this point, and he's pretty much losing his mind, and and really went through with trying to like, oh, my goal is to save everybody, and is pretty much putting everybody in suits of armor, even though it was deteriorate a lot of them, or turn to just malformed things like him. He first dragged Jarvis and Happy, suffocating them and putting them into other janky suits of armor based off the Mark One, and is in like in a completely horror fashion, with like pieces as he's throwing them into these things, pieces of their arm and like other stuff is just like being snipped off by the seams of the armor, and she's just looking on in horror, and he's sending out other armors out on the streets saying like, hey, if you have any kind of illnesses, or it's like any medical conditions, put on these armors. They will help you. And like people started like scrambling to put on these armors, and uh you know and Pepper narrates how she was hearing waves of screams, and then after that just dead silence, and it's like really scary. This is probably the scariest panel where like you know it's like a grotesque voice of Pepper, and she just you see this like walking like just big armor suit just standing right behind her. He's just placing his hand on her shoulder, and it's like, I got a suit for you too, Pepper. And just like in the beginning of this issue, where she narrates, "This is the story where I die," and it's like, oh, the last panel is her being escorted to her own armor, and it's like that is just like sick. It's super sick. Oh my god. It's like a lot of these are horror shows. Honestly, man. Uh, Blade, what he read through is like pretty much like a universe where um, like vampires became like a complete plague. It's like almost everybody is a vampire. It's like Dracula kind of pretty much like you know uh just went out throughout the world and is starting like completely having his minions turning everybody. There's only like a finite group of humans still left. One of which is like Nightcrawler, who mentions about the I can't remember what he specifically mentions about what was used by Dracula that caused like Krakoa. Most of the mutants in Krakoa either died or they turned into vampires themselves, or a few managed to end up turning to, it was some kind of dark mist, and he managed to, thanks to his teleportation, he managed to teleport far enough away where It only affected him to the point where he turned into a human without his powers now, but he didn't turn to a vampire. But a lot of the bulk of the mutant population just died out because they just start eating each other, or if those who didn't turn, they getting attacked by their brethren, former brethren. And you see, like opening with Amadeus Cho, who is a vampire in this one, being which is kind of like an odd choice to single out Amadeus Cho as like your eyes into this world, which is kind of like a weird choice in this matter, because Amadeus Cho is supposed to be like another Hulk, like a what do you call himself? Not smart Hulk, but something to that vein. Uh, uh, so he's running away from a kingpin who's kind of like, if you remember in the first Blade movie, that fat vampire sitting on that bed. Obviously, the writer got the inspiration from that movie to make Kingpin look exactly like that. Because it's kind of funny to me when I first read it. And, Blade is just like, he's just on a happy hunting spree. He doesn't even care if like these are former allies of his. They're vampires now. So I'm going to kill you all as much as I can. It's just like, it's kind of like because it's supposed to be possible possession of Lamagra. If you remember from the first Blade movie, that like Deacon Frost is supposed to summon this uh, ancient deity of the vampires, and it's seemingly he's supposed to be possessed by this thing, but I don't know. He's still acting like Blade, but just a Blade that's like lost any type of empathy, at least somewhat. Like he still recognizes everybody, but it's, he just like uh, he just like dead set, like one track mind, like you're going down. Uh, there's also like a panel of him like running out of serum that he used as a substitute for blood, because he still, the only weakness he still has that he shares with vampires is his thirst for blood, which the serum he takes mitigates that, but he's losing a little because without the people he usually has to, you know, keep that going for him as a supply, uh, all that's running through. So now it's like he's down to like 3 vials, but it's like now I'm thinking about it. Blade, even though he's not like a super genius, it's kind of like teaching your kid how to cook, because you're not gonna always be there to cook for them. So what like Whistler and any ally of Blade should be teaching him at least the basics of what he needs. So in case none of them are around or something happens to him, he would know how to. It push comes to shove, he would know how to make his own serum, because he lives for a very long time. So at some point he should know how to fix this himself. If push comes to shove, if something happens to his allies and they're not there to make the serum that he needs to know how to do it himself. And he shouldn't have 3 vials left. But this is like a dark universe, so uh, Amadeus runs into Citizen V, who is Nightcrawler in disguise, Prowler, who is a vampire, but he's not like succumbing to the monster side of it. And then you got Silver Sable, who seems like a early to mid 20s something here, and not like a full grown woman. And they're dubbed the Last Avengers. And they on some kind of suicide mission to stop Kingpin, who's like running the streets of New York with his vampire gang. And then of course Blaze shows up, starts murking everybody. Uh, um, and Blaze never like hinted at like like your typical writing where it's like a Blaze not here or something like that. It's just like relatively silent for the most part. So like everybody else believes like Lamagra's possessing Blade, and he's just on like a killing spree of all vampires. But Lamagra, from what I remember, is supposed to be like king or the god of vampires, so he wouldn't be killing off his subjects or whatever. It's like you know, it's like if he's possessed by Lamagra, he's probably influenced with Blade's kind of strong uh will to like eliminate all vampires, but just took it too far with it. That's what it seemed like to me. Uh, I mean, it is a line with before Blade kills Amadeus. He mentions like "Oh, we can find a cure together. Uh, they're good vampires." And Blade just says like, "Son, I don't know what you're on about," but and he shows his, he takes off his shades and got like a no pupils. It's all white eyes. And he says like, "But there's nobody in here but me." And there's no such thing as a good vampire. So it's still like ambiguous whether or not like you know this is actually like Blade or Lamarga possessing him because it seems like he's still doing what Blade does, but there's no hint that he's possessed. It is everybody else's claim to be. And he got a narration saying like my mother named me Eric Brooks, which is his real name. My enemies named me the Daywalker. I named myself for the blade, sharpening myself into what the world needed me to be until the day the monsters won. Uh, a world that's already lost doesn't need protectors, it needs a king. So, kind of like, yeah, like I said, it's a little ambiguous. It seems like somewhat influenced by La Magra, but still like Blade somewhat in there because it's still doing, kind of Blade's type of stuff. Another tie-in with Black Bolt. He's working on himself. It's kind of like a movie where it's like kind of like uh the Jason Bourne, the first Jason Bourne movie, where he's has no memory of what happens, but the only difference is he knows he's Black Bolt, but he has like a headache. He's you know outside of Adelan in like a desert on like a not like a desert, but like a moon, like an exile part of the moon where they send because they don't uh, execute any prisoners that do like extreme violence. Uh, that's typically are done. They decide to exile them to the wastelands where they get attacked by sand scorpions or something. And the last thing he's trying to piece together, because as he's trying to find his way back, he's piecing together like what he remembers last. Like one of his subjects is warning him about a coup that his brother Maximus is planning. Maximus the Mad, which yeah, because a lot of stories with Black Bolt and Inhumans, and the most part of what they're bad guys they dealing with is like it's typically Maximus who is supposed to be one of the geniuses of the Inhumans, but he's also mad. And it's like his brother to Black Bolt, and he loves him and all this other stuff. He's disappointed with the kind of stuff he's doing or typically does. It's kind of like Thor and Loki, except you know Loki has tempered, right, and eventually become like anti-heroes, sometimes hero in recent years. Uh, Maximus has always just been like like a bad guy. There's no other layers to him. He's because with Inhumans with their powers, there's always some kind of catch to it. It's kind of like a monkey's paw kind of situation. Black Bolt got the most powerful ability in the Marvel Universe, one of the most powerful abilities in the Marvel Universe, which is his voice. Because even like a whisper can knock down a mountain, just a whisper. So he had to, from at a young age, his parents had to put him in like a hermetically sealed area to teach him how to, with meditation and everything like that. He strengthened his core and it's like even not a single grunt, uh, not even a single laugh, not cry. He has to keep silent unless absolutely necessary, and it's a painstaking process that he had to learn throughout his like young uh, formative years. Uh, and Maximus, brilliant intellect, but at the cost of his, bit of his sanity. So it's kind of like that. So uh, the coup, what it was told to him that Maximus created this machine that can alter your look. It's kind of like people who are trans, like changing, from man to woman and vice versa. Maximus, built a machine to do something similar to where like he can easily infiltrate and take over. But the Black Bolt's uh, uh, court decided to build this machine. It's kind of like what you see in Doctor Strange 2 with that little store where you step on that pad and it shows you your memories. They kind of built something similar to this, whereas like, will be structured up throughout the kingdom. So no matter where uh, Maximus, if he had changed his appearance, he can't change his memories. So wherever he goes, no matter what he looked like, even if he looked like Medusa or whomever, the memory image will show none but Maximus's memories. So, but Black Bolt's still confused. It's like you still, flash forward to the present, like okay, the coup must still have gone successfully because I'm out here and I shouldn't be out here if Maximus lost. Then uh, 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 Black Bolt goes to this exile mountain, uh, where typically most people who are exiled who make it past like the Sand Scorpions, they go up there where there's these crates are where they hold because Inhumans have these these you know body bags things. It's like high tech body bags to where when you're on the cuffs of of death, uh, you can seal yourself up in these, and upon death, it will activate, and a ship will come by, from Atalant to pick you up so you can have a proper burial. And when you do this, once you get inside and zip yourself up, it cannot unzip from the inside, and you'll just end up suffocating to death if you do that. If you're not, like really gonna be like, just minutes away from dying. Uh, if you're not sure about that, you shouldn't seal yourself up because you can't get out, and it will take a while, not like too long, but long enough to the point where you'll just end up suffocating yourself to death. Uh, uh, Black Bolt activated one of these things just to get like a ship to come pick him up. He didn't seal himself inside, but he managed to uh, trick it to send a beacon to get a ship to come pick him up. But he sees a ship coming. One second here. One second here. Da, da, da. Well, he didn't like. I misspoke. He didn't like activate one of these things, as he points out. Uh, uh, he's resigned himself to like, hey, I probably will be stuck here on this rock. But then he knows like a ship coming by anyway, and he suspects that Maximus coming by to finish off the job. So he says the name Maximus, and the uh, vocal power uh, cracks the ship and sends it crashing to the ground. And you notice that it's one of the one of his servants, Telegar, who was inside. And he reveals that our coup failed, sir. And the Bible was confused. It's like, you're part of the coup? But it turns out Maximus, obviously, if he's going to change his appearance into anybody, who will be more than likely he will change into? Black Bolt. And the coup did fail, and Maximus realized, okay, these machines that's going to reveal his memories will ruin all his plans. So he has Telegar to alter his memories to match up with Black Bolt. That's why you see like these flashbacks. Even though it's like giving this Black Bolt a headache, he's being forced to remember only Black Bolt's memories. Flashes of memories being held into his captivity, and Maximus' jealousy, this kind of thing. So now he's no longer Maximus; he's just Black Bolt through and through. And he realizes, now he's completely Black Bolt. He can't go back to Adland if it's true, but he has no idea of whether or not it's true or not. Because if it is, then he rather not risk, because with Black Bolt's kind of inner goodness and loyalty to his people, he dare not risk going back and causing like a big stir. And if it's a lie, then what like he can't take the chance. So he's just sitting in the desert, just contemplating that thought. So all he had to do is just wait. Wasp is kind of typical. If you want to tell like a dark story with Wasp, obviously it has to deal with Hank Pym, who to this day is still more known, mostly thanks to the head honchos at Marvel, which by and large, me and a lot of people from what, every time this subject is brought up, all are just wondering why, oh why, does Marvel has such a hard on keeping that whole story, like that blemish on Hank Pym's record in his history about him, hitting his wife one time, which is like a pivotal thing and an important thing that was, that had to be addressed, and that story played out the way it played out. But it was, God, at least a couple of decades ago. A lot has happened in Marvel Comics, and a lot of characters done some really f up stuff. Even, as a matter of fact, there was this I think in 2019, 2018, something like that. It's way before the pandemic. I know, where it was an Iron Man comic run where Hank Pym was merged with of Ultron, because in the comics, Hank Pym built Ultron, not Tony Stark. Um, and he came back, and it was this big a thing where he was duking out with Iron Man, Think War Machine, and Wasp, and he points out, it's like, I made one mistake. I should not have to be punished for that for all my life. And it's like, like he points out all these other characters who done effed up stuff, which is legitimate, and like they're forgiven, they moved on and stuff like that. It's just like boggles the mind. It's like, why Marvel can't not let that go? Yes, it was a horrific thing, and it's like, if I was writing for a comic for of Marvel, at least one of the first things I want to do is like, okay, I want to tell a Hank Pym story, and I'm going to drive home. I don't care what anybody says. Y'all can fire me or whatever like that. I will put it out there. If y'all do fire me, I'm gonna put it out there. Like, I was let go by Marvel because I want to write a Hank Pym story where he is finally redeemed for one mistake he did over 20 plus years ago, and have Janet be the one to, because it's, he the one that did wrong to her. She's ultimately the only one that can choose whether or not to forgive him. Now, of course, yeah, it is up to her, but she will go through these steps to finally get past that. She doesn't go back with him, obviously, but she will be more inclined to, have civil conversations with him, have interactions, just be at least friends at this point, at the most. May not full on cozy wozy, but, she can be in the same room with him without feeling disgust. It's supposed to be about growth and forgiveness and giving some level of grace at this point. And it's just like, that's what I want to do, like some serious story. And how much would that rock the Marvel landscape to have that? Anyway, this dark story where it's kind of like set in like the early 60s, getting to the late 60s, getting to the 70s, with the way everything, the way it's drawn here. Very early days of Wasp and Yellow Jacket, because he's not Ant-Man at this point, he's Yellow Jacket. And you hear Janet going on about how, like, the male wasps don't have stingers, it's just the female wasps, and they sting more than once, kind of situation. The Avengers are fighting like Kang, and Kang got into her head talking about how, like, he loved somebody before too, and how much he's willing to do whatever for her, because her needs are are more important, goes above anything else. And it's like, do you have something like that yourself? Because clearly he's from the future. He probably knows all the stories. And of course, Hank is in this is a total ass, yelling at her, like, bitch, you cooked the casserole wrong. Back, kind of, or not backhands or yet, but he's just like, just focus on his little science. And imagine in the next Ant-Man movie, Quantumania, I don't think they even addressed that in the second film, But I imagine Quantumania they will have to like address the slapping situation, and maybe that will force Marvel into having somebody write a story where they get past this situation and not keeping doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on the slap. And you see like all through this Jan is just pretty much like a bitter housewife kind of thing. She always got like a resting bitch face all through the issue. You hear like you see like Pepper Potts and Tigra. Uh, People need to make a Tigra Marvel TV show at least. Maybe not a movie, but Tigra TV show. Because can you imagine all the furries, just loving the hell out of Tigra? But Pepper and Tigra clearly see something is up. It's kind of uh like the Watchmen movie where it's like comedian is like about to rape one of the female members uh until he like one of the other male members bust him and beat his ass. But it's kind of like it kind of gives me those vibes where it's like you know despite the you know campiness of certain comics or even like the MCU, it can get hardcore if it wants to. But this is super hardcore because this is like a dark kind of multiverse. And like she just eventually got fed up because he is on edge with every little thing, bitter with the Avengers because like oh they mad at me because I went a little overboard in a fight and I guess a bad guy and like and despite her trying to be supportive and being a good wife to him, he's just completely ungrateful about it. So after he backsands her after she tried to like bring him food because like you interrupted my work and he backsands her and she just like after he's like apologizing profusely like Jen, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, and she takes one of the broken glasses she landed on and just proceeds to repeatedly stab him like and just like and then she just like smiles in relief covered in blood. Like holy shit. Finally, Spider-Man. Uh, it seemed like opening with like Gwen Stacy's like telling him about like, oh, you promised you'll meet me for uh uh you got lunch with me, Tiger, because he's engaged to Gwen Stacy. Clearly, it's obviously like an alternate universe. And while on the phone, you see like a splash page of Spider-Man having the entire city covered in his webs, and he's like, you know, exhausted. His suit is kind of tattered, and he's dealing with this thing called the unraveling, where people and things are starting to like come apart, and Spider-Man's struggling to keep everything together. No one knows like what caused this unraveling, but Spider-Man's finding people and webbing up pieces of their body that's falling off back to them, and it kind of like not like zombies, but it's like they shuffling around like zombies, just doing whatever strong conscious thing that they do a lot. They continuing to do that same thing, like officers going around walking around that same beat over and over again till their body starts falling apart. uh uh he sees Dr. Octopus on a bridge doing what he remembers last, I guess, trying to threaten a hostage on a bridge, golding Spider-Man to stop him. And all his metal arms is falling off his body, and Spider-Man just webbing them back together. And it's a very sad moment where Ock just whimpering, saying like, "Please don't laugh at me." And Peter's like, "I will never laugh at you, Otto. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. I will never laugh at this." And then you see Spider-Man sees the Fantastic Four flare signal go up. He goes to meet Reed, who is like fooling around with his body and is like very grotesque, you know, body dysmorphia type of situation until he reforms himself into like a in a proper shape. And it's hinted at through these kind of like tubes, where it's like it's possible where his family is, because you don't see Ben Grimm or Sue or Johnny anywhere, and so you see these three, hermetically sealed kind of like tubes, each of a different color. One looked like earthy grounded rock, and the other seems a very blue translucent thing, and the other seems like maybe it doesn't look like fire or anything like that. Maybe like ash or something. I don't know, but you never see like none of the other members of the Fantastic Four, and they're trying to figure out like a way to keep everything together and back to normal as best they could. And Reed comes up with his body, because the way why people like him was who have more malleable bodies, and people like Peter who has like super regenerative abilities are preventing themselves from being like falling apart. And he comes up with the idea of utilizing more pieces of other malleable individuals. He can formulate a way, a compound to keep everything together permanently, thanks to like a combination of like web fluids from Spider-Man. And so he's told to track down. He tracks down Venom, who's in a sewer, and he's just holding the symbiote is just holding Brock together. He's just a corpse, and he doesn't want to let go, which is kind of sad. It's like he was my home, and it's like, and Peter pleads with the symbiote, like you can join with me, we can fix this, but the symbiote recoils, like we don't want you anymore. It's like we just want to stay with Brock. What's left for Brock. And then of course you get like a sad panel where like Peter trying to keep his promise of meeting Gwen for lunch, but she didn't fall apart, and he was holding her together to the chair on the table where he's supposed to have their lunch. But then at this point he just snaps, and a creepy moment where it ends with him jumping into like Reed's lab, and Reed mentioning about apologizing for him, like insinuating that Spider-Man is not taking this seriously as he should. But then it looked like he was about to kill Reed off screen. But next you see like everything is covered in like blue elasticity. Everybody seems to be like in better shape and look like normal society. And all you hear is like the whimpering of Reed. Peter, please, it hurts. And it's just like it's like Spider-Man sitting on this kind of like a web shaped Reed Richards body with a web number 4 insignia on it, and Peter just saying on the final panel, like, I know, Reed, but you have a responsibility to the city. It is kind of like, whoa, what the fuck? This is dark shit. But then like you're back to the final bit, the Omega, because the first part was Alpha and this is the Omega, where now that you establish where these what they read and how they end up turning into like a dark versions of themselves, a bridge between like the other realm is open, and this is where like Wanda sends these evil version of her friends through it, so to go to the other realm to fend off Chthon's army and hopefully weaken him at the same time. And you see these guys like fight off a lot of these creatures in a very like more sadistic way than they probably normally would anywhere else. And it's, like I said, it's kind of like the crime syndicate from DC Universe, where it's like this evil versions of the characters you know. It's like saying like like just no morality or empathy, just like just sniping at each other and just just like going ham, damn any kind of like uh uh restraint. And it's one of those rare moments where you get to see Spider-Man really kind of lay into somebody with no qualms of killing. And he's still doing his jokiness, but it's kind of like the same jokiness you would probably expect from like Carnage. But then Chthon shows up. Uh, but then as he's trying to open a bridge to the Earth realm, he gets blasted by Doom and Wanda. Doom has like a holding the book with a brand new armor, and of course like Wanda has to be posing, like Yelena Belova would say, like poser. And so in order to beat Chthon, Wanda absorbed the book in herself because they can't really kill him and they can't destroy the book because it's too powerful. So she absorbed him, the book, which caused him to be sealed permanently. And this time, is she has better defenses and more experience in order to contain him. This is how powerful Scarlet Witch is freaking is, because of course the movie came before this. No, this came after. No, this comic book came up before the movie, and he's like Scarlet Witch, as you saw in Doctor Strange 2, can be freaking powerful when she's really leaning in, and it's like, and this kind of really hits that home where it's like he's supposed to be some not a demon, but like a overall like powerful monster that's kind of her rose gallery. If Scarlet Witch has any kind of rose gallery, Chthon is like up there, and she managed to like seal him without threat of him possessing her again, like she did like he did so many years ago in Marvel Comics. And she returned her and her friends back to the Earth and changed them back to their normal selves. But they still retain the memories of what they read and can't ignore that. But now they have to worry about, uh, uh, going through their lives acting like that. Also, there's some like return of this dude named James Michael Starling. There's supposed to be some sort of pseudo son of Jocasta. I think it's Jocasta. It kind of looks like Jocasta, but whatever. It's not really that important. He's tied with Chthon, but he doesn't really serve like an overall like thing. He's just there to reestablish like trying to I guess a rudimentary way to bring him back to the Marvel Universe. I never seen him before in my life. I read a decent amount of comics. Never seen this guy before. Like I know, at least I don't. I've never read much or if anything with Adam Warlock, but I know of Adam Warlock. I don't recognize this fool. So the day is saved. Chthon is sealed away. Wanda's is more powerful, than she has been. And it's like there's been like a, because ever since House of M, just like with Hank Pym, there's like a long stint where people always, refer to Scarlet Witch as that person that kind of like went crazy and nearly wiped out all of the mutant population and alternate the world so she can have kids. And it's like that for the longest time. That's what she has been known for, up until maybe in the past couple of years, or at least a year, until like that's been like dealt with. And I want that for Hank Pym because it's kind of like sucks uh, for him to keep like suffering through that. But anyway, yeah, Darkhold, like definitely like a look see because it's like nice short uh, uh, events. I consider this like a Scarlet Witch centered story that you can just jump right into. Well, maybe not jump right into. There's other Scarlet Witch stories that you should definitely check out, but this is a good Scarlet Witch story too, and a nice little insight to like some kind of like a dark multiverse. It's like it's so dope. I thought it was like a great story, and I really wish Marvel would kind of make this like a separate universe, or at least some amalgamation of like a dark universe where all our typical good guys are bad guys, and you get to see what twisted stories that go about with them, like something with like a very dark Captain America or dark Ben Grimm or something like that. The Dark Fantastic Four in general. I want to see something like that. But anyway, if you read Darkhold, let me know what you thought of it. Leave a like, hit that notification bell, share this with your friends. And what kind of dark stories would you feel that's kind of interesting for a Marvel-centric character? Daredevil. Can you imagine what a dark Daredevil would be? Kind of twisted thing you can do with him. So cool. But anyway, give me at least 10 minutes while I get everything booted up because I'm going to play some more Overwatch tonight. Overwatch 2. Not working tomorrow, so I can go all night. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. And later on in the week, you'll see some more reviews for the month of Halloween. And I got at least one more comic for this month for review to wrap up Halloween. So it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna leave it a surprise, but you'll like it. But anyway, I will see you guys later.